All right. So Telegraph-backed CEO Pavel Durov as his arrest prompts online backlash. Telegram has backed its CEO Pavel Durov, who was arrested on Saturday in France and is reportedly still being detained for questioning, with the messaging platform saying he has, quote, nothing to hide. The Russia-born billionaire was arrested at Le Bourget airport near Paris as part of an investigation into an alleged lack of moderation on Telegram, which police claim has allowed criminal activity, including crimes against minors, to go undetected on the app. Quote, Telegram abides by EU laws, including the Digital Services Act. Its moderation is within industry standards and constantly improving, the platform said. Durov has nothing to hide and travels frequently in Europe. It is absurd to claim that a platform or its owner are responsible for abuse of that platform. The arrest prompted widespread online backlash. Elon Musk, CEO of social media app X, tweeted a response from XAI's chatbot Grok when asked about Durov's arrest. Quote, check out this ad for the First Amendment. It is very convincing, he captioned the post. Rumble CEO Chris Pavlovsky said France threatened the conservative-focused media platform, but this is how they brainwash people.
Right, exactly.
This is how they brainwash people. It's little subtle things like that. Conservative-focused media platform. No, it's not conservative-focused. What it is a lot of the people they identify as left, which I would not even consider them left, but a lot of what they identify as left are liberals who don't actually believe in freedom of speech, who, as we will see in these stories, they're openly hostile to freedom of speech. So as a result, they don't go to Rumble.
Well,
Rumble
not only
has
that,
the stink on it because it allows freedom of speech.
Not only that, but one of the part of why they've been defined as a right of center platform is because it was in years past mostly right-wing figures who were censored off of the big tech platforms.
Right.
Since October 7th, they've seen an influx of left creators because the censors came from the left in the age of the Israel-Gaza war. Richard Medhurst, who incidentally was also arrested for wrongthink this past week or so, that's his main home now because he got demonetized on YouTube. And so as the times change, more people are going to be flooding to platforms that don't censor like this.
Yeah. Hey, we talk about, well, you couldn't really do this show in China. Shit, man, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing our show in Europe at this point. I'd be afraid I'm serious. I'd be afraid they're going to come arrest me.
Yeah.
Because England forget about England. Now you can be arrested for making people feel bad on the internet. And the EU has its digital content laws.
Hold on. I just want to make a point because now while we're paused on this, in my fuck America monologue that I did the other night, I got some comments. Well, why don't you just leave? Why don't you just, move? And that's actually a fair question. And it's actually an especially fair question in my case, more fair than you even realize, because I am a citizen of the EU. I could pack up the family and go to Europe and work in Europe. But given shit like this, yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't want to. I don't know if I could do this show there.
Right. I
mean, Medhurst was arrested for wrongthink. That is literally what he was arrested for. Maybe we'll get into more detail on a Rumble switchover at a certain point, since we have to be very careful what we say here in East Berlin about that. But that's literally what they got. Wrongthink. Arrested for wrongthink. And now going to be charged. He's out on bail now for expressing the wrong opinion, literally. That is literally true. What they got him for. I hate to even say that. And he's not alone. Obviously, we have this story. Sorry, I didn't mean to break the flow. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, England is the worst.
Yeah.
England is the worst, ironically.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, at this point, like living within the EU, I wouldn't feel comfortable if I were going to be an expat somewhere. I don't know, man, Southeast Asia or something, probably.
Yeah.
All right. So Rumble CEO Chris Pavlovsky said France threatened and editorial brackets conservative focused media platform and crossed a red line with Durov's arrest. Rumble will use every legal means available to fight for freedom of expression, a universal human right. You go, Chris. I think we could say friend of show, Chris Pavlovsky.
There you go.
American whistleblower Edward Snowden said Durov's arrest, quote, was an assault on the basic human rights of speech and association. Conservative political commentator Tucker Carlson said the arrest is, quote, a living warning to any platform owner who refuses to censor the truth at the behest of governments and intel agencies. You want to add something, Keith?
I mean, it's a very chilling thing to see a platform owner be responsible, criminally, according to the government here, for everything that goes on the platform. Obviously, if people are abusing the platform and breaking the law, they could be prosecuted. I mean, that's obviously fair. No one's saying you should be allowed to distribute, criminal materials or like facilitate, drug deals or anything like that. But that's on the user. That's not on the platform itself.
Of course.
Yeah, it's on the user.
It's like charging the phone company for for illegal activity coordinated by phone.
Exactly. Well, yes. I mean, to take that example to its logical conclusion, which is what a lot of people advocate for, that's why these should be regulated as public utilities.
Exactly.
Because it makes no sense to hold a platform responsible for the behavior of its users. People use Facebook to do illegal shit. People send messages about breaking the law on Facebook. They could DM, on X. I mean, it's just ridiculous that you would drag the owner of that platform to jail over that.
Well, this is the ongoing war that's been continuing since they figured out these platforms can not only be manipulated to stir up unrest in the Middle East, hence the Arab Spring. They were very happy with these platforms when they thought it was going to be a tool for the CIA, which it still is. But when they found out the people could use the platform the same way, and they might not use it in ways that they like, there has been a war against a free internet, and that war is largely within American politics coming from the Democratic side. It just is. That is just a fact. Yes, Donald Trump can say his nutty shit about deporting people, which would never clear a court. And which, frankly, he doesn't have the focus to follow through on anyway. He says all kinds of things. He goes on for 15 minutes about whether he'd rather drown or face a shark.
Right.
So you can't use that to say, well, he's just the same. No, I'm sorry. Most of this effort to really shut down free speech on the internet is coming from Democrats. It is coming from liberals. It is coming from one particular side. And as I've said many times, it's terrible that we're put in a position that we have to choose which billionaires are better on speech. But unfortunately, that's where we are.
I mean, when it comes to the internet, it's almost all from the Democratic side. Where Trump's infringements on the First Amendment come from are actually like in the analog world. 10 years for defacing a statue, a year for burning a flag, deporting students for protesting on campus. Like that those are all egregious violations of the First Amendment. They exist in the real world. It's not online. Yes. Online, it's almost all Democrat control.
Right. We just showed when we were interviewing Yeshitela, Tim Waltz on MSNBC said there is no guarantee to free speech of misinformation. Yes, there is.
Of course there is.
Yes, there is.
Yes.
Who decides what misinformation is? We saw how that worked out not very long ago. You know what I mean?
Well, even in the case where there is like misinformation, like, look, Twitter is now, compared to Facebook, as we'll get into in the next segment, less censorious than most of these platforms. Certainly less censorious than Facebook. Instagram, obviously owned by the same parent company.
Literally shared a video Google. Of a kid with half his head blown off.
Yeah, no, it's definitely less censorious on a whole. That's not to say, Elon has a squeaky clean record. He obviously does not, as we've mentioned over and over again. But yeah, look, like there are lies, flat out lies, that spread on Twitter faster than they would spread on Facebook. The boxer, who several high-profile accounts said was trans, who was not trans, that misinformation, was fake, spread far and wide on X. There are a lot of stories like that where you'll see an account say, breaking. They'll say some headline with no link, no sourcing. That's not true. That gets tweeted out, reaches hundreds of thousands of people. Mm-hmm. Is it annoying? Sure. But it's the price of doing business on a free platform. It's the price of living in a free society. Right. Like, are there certain times when I'll see something on Twitter and think, if this isn't corroborated anywhere else, I really got to think twice before I put this on the show or use this as a source? Absolutely. And does it create an added headache? Absolutely. But that's the price of free speech, and I'll pay that price 7 days a week. I would much rather have to do the extra work every once in a while of parsing out what's legit and what's not legit than have to hold my breath every time I fire off a post. Am I going to get banned for saying this? Right? Like, there's a trade-off. It's a no-brainer what world I'd rather live in. Of course, you take the world where information gets out there. The fake information, they have ways they'll community note it or it'll get refuted. And sometimes it won't. Like, sometimes mistakes are going to happen. That's just the price of being able to run your mouth. And I'll pay that price every day. No question. Right. And needless to say, there's a double standard because the corporate media spreads misinformation all day, every day, demonstrably so. And well, that's obvious. They don't get thrown off platforms. They don't get thrown off. No. Platforms, and we don't advocate that they do. No. But then the average schmuck gets banned. Right. Exactly. All right, throw it back up. All right. So breaking: Rumble founder Chris Pavlovsky leaves Europe due to the arrest of Telegram's Durov. After the arrest of Durov, the founder of the YouTube competition Rumble left Europe in fear. Quote, "I'm a little late to this, but for good reason. I've just safely departed from Europe. France has threatened Rumble, and now they have crossed a red line by arresting Telegram CEO Pavel Durov, reportedly for not censoring speech. Rumble will not stand for this behavior and will use every legal means available to fight for freedom of expression, a universal human right. We are currently fighting in the courts of France, and we hope for Pavel Durov's immediate release," he said. Now, this was something else. He retweeted David Sachs. TikTok. Now, originally, he sent out a tweet with TikTok crossed off and the same list. So now he sent out an updated tweet with Telegram crossed off. And make no mistake, you've had this back and forth with Keir Starmer and Elon Musk in the UK, where he's trying to blame X for the riots they recently had. Elon tweeted out something saying civil war was inevitable in England. They've openly discussed arresting Elon Musk if he goes there. So X is the next target. These are very, very dangerous times in this space and for the entire Western world and its traditions of free speech. Now, April 16th, this dropped on X. Tucker had a little conversation with Durov. And let's see what he said. He describes American agents trying to quietly pay his people, essentially to sabotage the platform, to open up backdoor codes so that they could watch what goes on Telegram.
We get too much attention from the FBI, the security agencies, wherever we came to the US. So to give you an example, last time I was in the US, I brought an engineer that is working for Telegram, and there was an attempt to secretly hire my engineer behind my back by cybersecurity officers or agents, wherever they are called.
The US government tried to hire your engineer?
That's my understanding. That's what he told me.
To write code for them or to break into Telegram?
They were curious to learn which open source libraries are integrated to the Telegram's app, on the client side, and they were trying to persuade him to use certain open source tools that he would then integrate into the Telegram's code. that, in my understanding, would serve as backdoors.
Would allow the U.S. government to spy on people who use Telegram.
The U.S. government, or maybe any other government, because a backdoor is a backdoor regardless of who is using it.
That's right.
And
that's a little surprising to hear. Maybe it's not surprising. It's offensive. You're confident that happened?
Yes. There is no reason for my engineer to make up the stories. Also because I personally experienced similar pressure in the US. Whenever I would go to the US, I would have two FBI agents greeting me at the airport, asking questions. One time I was having my breakfast at like 9 a.m. and the FBI showed up at my house that I was renting. And that was quite surprising. And I thought, we're getting too much attention here. It's probably not the best environment to run.
Why would had you committed a crime?
No, they were interested to learn more about Telegram. They knew I, left Russia. They knew what we were doing, but they wanted details. And my understanding is that they wanted to establish a relationship to, in a way, control Telegram better. I understand that they were doing their job. It's just that for us running a privacy-focused social media platform, that probably wasn't the best environment to be in. We want to be focused on what we do, not on government relations of that sort.
Government relations.
Okay, so what you really have to ask yourself when you hear that account is, okay, certainly they didn't just do that to him. And okay, he said no. How many said yes that you just don't know about?
Right.
This is some of what we saw in the Twitter files, that behind the scenes they were working with the FBI. And many of these platforms surely are. He said no. Most of them probably said yes. And what we'll get into in our next story, which kind of pairs with this very neatly, is Zuckerberg. He's getting color. He grew out a beard. It's like he's becoming a real boy.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
He has decided to turn on his masters. But yeah, this is terrifying. Look, back in the day, they had a lot of ways to gatekeep the flow of information. You had 3 news networks, you had certain newspapers, and it was very easy to make sure that anything that was very much at odds with official narratives would never get to most people. The internet blew all that up, and they've been struggling with how to get back that gatekeeping capacity ever since. Back in the day, they could say, no, of course you have freedom of speech, as long as you could hand out pamphlets on the corner that nobody was ever going to read. What do you mean? You could say whatever you want, but the big publishing houses were not going to publish that.
Right.
That's it. So you had very limited reach, but they could say, look, you have freedom of speech. You can print whatever you want that no one's ever going to read. The internet changed all that. And what you're seeing, what you've been seeing, particularly since 2016, and it's heating up now, is a battle for the establishment, for the forces that really control our governments, that really control our economies, the people behind the curtain. This internet thing is very dangerous to their power and to their control over people's perception of society and how it runs, and public policy. And they are struggling to propagandize enough of the population to see free speech as a danger to their safety, to get them to vocally support, as we saw at the DNC, support the idea of shutting down speech. And to really ironically, in very Orwellian fashion, Taibbi wrote an article about this. The way that the Democrats use the word freedom in this very Orwellian way. So they'll frame that as freedom from misinformation, right? You're not shutting down freedom. You're expanding. You're free from the need to be confronted with misinformation. It's not censorship. It's an expansion of your freedoms.
Yeah, and Telegram is a platform that is not on the radar of everybody because in terms of like its grip on the discourse here, it's relatively obscure. But they have almost 1 billion users, 900 million users.
It's much more popular in other countries. It's very popular in India and the Middle East.
Yeah, and it has grown by over 10% from 2023, so it's a fast growing platform as well. And look, it would never occur to me to hold a platform owner criminally liable for something that happens on their network. We were alerted to Telegram because a while back, it was like a year ago, I think, someone had created a fake DueDissidence account, and they were like reaching out to people, telling them that like the guys want you on their show, so write back and we'll arrange an interview. And they were actually sending people contracts to appear on our show. We had no idea any of this was happening because we're not on the platform. So somebody alerted me to it. So I created a Telegram account for the sole purpose of going in and getting rid of this person.
Then we reached out to the French government.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Told them about the problem we were having, and here's the result.
Yeah. No, I went in, I created an account, I found the impersonator, I reported it, and that was that. There hasn't been an issue since. Now, if the platform ignores you, like if they turn a blind eye to illegal shit that's happening on the platform and they don't help you resolve it, then I think they are perhaps civilly liable for damages incurred. Even then, I wouldn't say they're criminally liable. But yeah, like you have an obligation to, once the alarm bells are sounded that there's something happening on your platform, yeah, you should have to go in and fix that. Otherwise, I think you could be conceivably civilly liable for that. But the idea that you're going to arrest somebody and threaten them with jail time over somebody's misuse of the platform, I mean, it's absurd. And the bigger the platform, the more absurd it is. I mean, 900 million people on the platform. Of course, there's going to be shady shit going on. There's shady shit that goes on every platform. And they have mechanisms to combat it. That doesn't mean you jail the owner.
There's shady shit going on in the mail.
Yeah.
You arrest the postmaster general.
Yeah, you don't jail the owner to make an example to everyone that they better not step out of line.
The people doing the illegal shit are the ones that are liable. That's how we handle it in every other form of communication.
Exactly.
Whether it's mail, whether it's the phone. Right. We don't go after the CEO of Spectrum because somebody did something illegal on a cell phone.
Right. Exactly.
Please clap.